Welcome to Click, I'm Spencer Kelly, and welcome to one of the most famous skylines on the planet. This week we're on a tiny island that's having an enormous impact. It may hardly show up on the map, but it punches well above its weight. This is Singapore. We'll be passing that fake border control and taking a peek at the secrets behind your credit cards, all in the name of touchless tech. We'll journey through white space to test a project promising to bring Wi-Fi to everyone. And we'll check out some singularly Singaporean research, including a low-cost way to turn your TV into a touchscreen and a lavatory that recycles everything. And I mean everything. All that plus the latest tech news and a way to go sightseeing from the comfort of your own home in Webscape. Time for Click to blast off from New Broadcasting House in London and head 6,500 miles southeast. We're off to a city-state that's home to 5.5 million people. It's just 70 miles wide and only 85 miles north of the equator, and it wants to put itself at the centre of everything.
I think Singapore has always positioned itself as a hub, a meeting place for East and West.
And as far as progress is concerned, being physically small does have its advantages. When you're not covering a large area, for example, rolling out new technologies such as 4G can happen very quickly and easily. Connecting up the new high-speed 1 gigabit per second broadband service is certainly made easier when 80% of Singaporeans live in high-rise public housing like this. Welcome aboard the Singapore Flyer, the largest observation wheel in the world. And from the top of the ride, 165 metres up, Singapore really does look quite tightly packed in. The city doesn't so much bustle as hum with activity, like an efficient machine. It's all part of a drive that's happened in the last couple of decades and which has created one of the highest standards of living in the world, and a population where 9 out of 10 people here have a smartphone. And they're certainly used to having the best first.
I think 15 years ago, we wouldn't have so much new technology that we would see, say, in Akihabara in Japan or in South Korea. Today, a lot of the new products turn up on the same day as the US or in South Korea or in Japan.
And it's not just the road and data networks which seem to work well here. Its small size and compactness means that this is the ideal place to roll out a nationwide network which larger countries have so far failed to do. It's a network that lets you do stuff just by touching one device to another. It's called NFC, Near Field Communication, and though we've seen this kind of thing quite a few times on Click, the tech's not quite common enough for everyone to get on board. The question is, could Singapore be the place where NFC does make it into the mainstream?
What IDA in Singapore has done is actually grouping a group of, players in the ecosystem to come together to actually roll out service. This way, it helps to actually cut down the deployment time and the development time.
After all, your smartphone is something that you keep on your person most of the time. And at this NFC showroom, they're demonstrating other applications of the technology past payment. Shall we go in? Once you're in, that same phone can be used to pass on and receive information using NFC. Touch it to a poster, for example, and you receive promotional vouchers to use while you're shopping.
Have an NFC device, touch the smart poster. I want a 10-kilo bag of rice and I want it delivered to the house. That's something that you could choose to do as a convenience instead of going to the store and trying to lug that 10-kilo bag of rice back to your house.
But sometimes your smartphone alone isn't enough, which is why some passports are already fitted with NFC chips. Couple this with fingerprint scanning to check that the hand holding the passport matches the hand stored within it, and this is how we could be passing through airports in the future. NFC is already a way of life here in Singapore. You might not have ever really considered how these cards are made, but since hundreds of millions of them are made here in Singapore every year, well, it'd be rude not to take a peek. It's tempting to think of your credit card as just a simple piece of plastic, but there are actually quite a few components that are all tightly pressed together to make this thing. And that process happens here in what is a pretty confidential procedure. In fact, this place is so secretive that visitors are asked not to touch anything and to empty their pockets and not to come in with bags, mobile phones, data devices or cameras. Of course, it's confidential for a reason. You don't want anyone compromising any stage of the production process, whether it's the embedding of the chip or the choosing of the colour or even the transparency of the plastic. Now, one of the layers inside this card is a thin copper spiral. This is the antenna, and when you connect this antenna to the chip in the card, it gives it its NFC properties. And of course, it goes without saying that you can pay for your taxi ride here using your NFC-enabled smartphone too. But getting NFC to work in Singapore or anywhere isn't just about getting the infrastructure right. It's also about persuading people that it genuinely will make their lives easier. And talking of an easy life, LJ Rich has found somewhere a little bit more relaxing than this to check out another type of future network, something called white space. LJ.
Thanks, Ben. Yes, I am somewhere very relaxing. This is Gardens by the Bay, but I'm not just taking it easy. I'm here for a reason, and that reason is all about being connected in a public place.
These gardens didn't exist 6 years ago. They were built on reclaimed land with an emphasis on design and sustainability. A tranquil break from the frantic financial hub a few miles away. Futuristic structures known as super trees quietly harness solar power so they can light themselves up at night. But there's something amiss in paradise. Tourists wishing to tweet about their adventures are out of luck, unless they've brought their own mobile data connection. Because, as any traveller knows, there's rarely free internet access when straying from a home network. But Gardens by the Bay went live just a few weeks ago as a trial area for Singapore's Super Wi-Fi White Space programme. The idea is to eventually roll out free public Wi-Fi across the city. We've seen white space before on Click. It's the name for a wireless network made available when old frequencies for analogue TV signals are repurposed to carry data. And with so many people online here, traditional wireless networks are getting congested.
If you are talking about just coverage, perhaps the order of 300 to 400 base stations, you should be able to cover the whole Singapore island everywhere. But this is just coverage alone. If you need a certain capacity in certain area, then you probably have to plant more base stations. And with this, you might need more base stations, depending on the demand.
Those white space antennas pick up the raw internet signal, then it's converted to a frequency our smartphones will be able to use. Of course, you have to register before you can use the service, but the countrywide rollout is scheduled for completion in around 2 years. Hopefully, someone will have sorted out our smartphone battery life by then.
LJ Rich. Hi, LJ. Right, see you there. LJ's back in a minute, and we're coming back to Singapore after we attend to some things that are happening elsewhere in this week's Tech News.
Facebook has removed a video clip of a woman being decapitated from the social media network and issued new rules about what can be shared on the site. The U-turn came after the BBC revealed Facebook had dropped a ban on extremely violent videos and images. Facebook now says it will allow some graphic content, but will take a closer look at its context. Google says it wants to protect news organisations and human rights groups from cyber attacks with its new Project Shield. The software aims to protect sites frequently subject to politically motivated distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks. The company also revealed a U-proxy feature designed to bypass government surveillance software so users can surf the web freely. Apple has unveiled the next generation iPad. The 5th generation Air is a third lighter and 20% thinner than the previous version. And the iPad mini now has what Apple calls a Retina display, offering higher resolution than its predecessor. A raft of upgraded laptops are predictably thinner and faster, and there's another update to the Mac operating system. Mavericks is available now at no charge. Not to be outdone, Microsoft has released 2 new Surface tablets with updates to its Windows OS, and Nokia has revealed 3 new mobile devices, including its first tablet, the Lumia 2520. After Microsoft decided to buy the Finnish outfit, it's not surprising that they also run the Windows operating system. But it's heads up on the camera front, which uses the Refocus Lens app, meaning you can decide what you want in or out of focus after the shot's been taken.
Did you know there are more millionaires per head in Singapore than any other country on earth? And that is the financial district of the country. But it's not all about making money here. There is a flourishing academic scene too. And LJ Rich and I have been to the lab. This is Nanyang Technological University, and it's full of labs. Inside its impressive architecture, there's some equally impressive thinking going on. The question is, how do you find the research that's really going to change lives in amongst all of those weird ideas that will never really catch on?
Well, this is the place that developed a real invisibility cloak, which might be a bit niche. But some trends, specifically tech that could change how we behave, are quite easy to spot.
Goodo. Right, what you got first?
First up, sitting in traffic is part of driving in this densely packed island. So this traffic prediction project takes GPS data from a large taxi company and uses it to predict where things get bunged up. Only the problem is, as traffic gets heavier, this conventional data analysis starts to fall apart. Cars driving closely together start to behave more like a liquid. The roads are like pipes. So the programme switches to a physics-based model using fluid dynamics. If you look at the top here, it's just coming up to rush hour and, well, predictably, we've got lots of red bits there. Those red blotches mean that traffic is moving between 10 and 30 kilometres an hour, i.e. quite slowly. At the very bottom here, we've got what's called the prediction error, and this is showing how accurate the prediction data is. As you can see there, lots of blue means pretty good. Now, like the weather, the further into the future you predict, the less accurate the result. And for a big city, you'll need a lot more sensors, and you'd probably have to break the city down into smaller areas. This tech could affect our journeys if scaled up. Pretty good, eh?
Well, efficiency is important, especially in a place like Singapore. In fact, as well as traffic issues, this place's compact nature has drawn other environmental issues to the fore. It needs to save energy, reduce waste and save water, most of which it currently imports from Malaysia. Well, one team here at NTU has a grand plan to make our towns more sustainable by creating localised waste treatment centres, which take all forms of waste from nearby housing and convert it into energy. And that's why I find myself staring down a toilet. Yep, researchers have found that pretty much everything that goes down here can be turned into something useful. Now, the process works best if you can keep solid and liquid separate. Hence, this has been dubbed the no-mix loo, with the bowl divided into sections to keep one away from, well, two. Solid waste is mixed with food waste from our rubbish bins to produce biogas, which can be used for cooking and to generate electricity. And the leftover water from this process is used to grow microalgae, that's the green stuff, which in turn produces biodiesel. So, only one question remains. How would we take to a toilet that requires, shall we say, a little more discipline? Well, the first one has been installed in the university itself. So, it's time for me to try it out. Just, give me a few minutes, would you?
While Spencer's otherwise occupied, here's something that could convert any surface into a touchscreen. Tapping on a board, in this case made of wood or aluminium, sends a signal to this attached sound sensor. Placing more than one sensor on a flat object makes it possible to work out where it's been tapped. That's because the sound takes slightly longer to reach the sensor further away, and that's the thinking behind a low-cost touch surface. OK, fast forward 2 years from the boards and you've got a working prototype. Instead of one sensor, we've actually got 12. That's 5 along the top, 5 along the bottom, and then 1 either side here. 12 sensors mounted around the glass make for a reasonably accurate sound-driven touchscreen. Well, that's all very well, but there are a couple of very real issues here. First of all, well, in order for this to work, you have to make an audible noise. And secondly, if you want to do swiping, well, you're actually going to need some of these. Together with the cameras on the top, this kind of works. I know there are many other products that let you use touch and gesture to communicate with them. But this one has the advantage of being very affordable. Now, the thing about this system is not that it can do all of these things, but it can do them at an incredibly low cost. For example, these 12 sensors here, plus the camera, plus the glass, currently is coming in at around 100 Singapore dollars. That's 75 US dollars or 50 UK pounds. Real-life applications could include making a cheap, interactive whiteboard for schools. It will take another 18 months before this contraption is streamlined enough to hit the mainstream. And now Spencer's back with a panda.
These days we're sending more and more data around our homes, whether it's syncing files between machines or streaming videos like Kung Fu Panda 1, or maybe it's 2, I'm not quite sure, from your media server to your high-def TV. And it's always more convenient to do that wirelessly than using a wired connection. But the problem is wireless is slower and it's prone to breakup and interference. And that's why the team here have developed something they're calling next generation Wi-Fi, which means the Panda is being streamed wirelessly to this prototype box here and this TV over a channel that has between 2 and 4 gigabits per second of throughput, and that's more than enough to completely stream a high-def movie or even a super high-def video up to 4 or even 8K. Now, at the moment, the team have got this technology up to a range of 8 meters, which means the transmitter sending this video feed is just down there at the end of the hall. Another restriction is that this system is line of sight. It is extremely directional, which means you do have to point the transmitter at the receiver for it to work. And if anything thicker than a piece of paper breaks the beam, the signal's lost and the Panda freezes, as you can see. But the team are hoping to get around that problem by helping the signal to get around the problem, by bouncing it off of a wall, for example. Now, in the future, they hope to get the range up high enough so that you can send data from building to building, creating a kind of mesh network over part of a city. And they think that version of the technology might be ready within the next year, well in time for Kung Fu Panda 3. Talking of which, we're done here. Let's hop back to Click Towers to find out what Kate Russell has in store for us this week in Webscape.
Being an environmentally concerned member of the Click team, I'm quite happy not to be piling on the air miles, jetting off to shows and exhibitions around the world, especially when I can enjoy all the sights in full 360-degree glory with the new app from 360 Cities.
But the world goes round.
This amazing app turns your mobile device into a 360-degree window into the world, using the gyroscope to let you spin your viewpoint around for some of the most stunning landscapes on the planet. Who needs a trip to Singapore anyway? It's not free, but just £1.50 seems pretty good value for such a powerful image tool. There are thousands of vistas to explore, browsing by popular, recent or local images posted by other users. You can also create your own with the simple point and turn capture tool.
But the world goes round.
Breaking news.
If you're the kind of person that wakes up in the morning and reaches for your smartphone to check what's happening in the world, you're going to love this kind of 360. News360.com. Connect to all your main social accounts and it analyses what you like so it can feed the latest stories straight to your dedicated timeline. Social networks are a great way of discovering news on topics that interest you and your friends, but you don't always want to get drawn into the general chit-chat. This site is the perfect solution, as you only see links to published articles in subjects that you have expressed an interest in. You can fine-tune the categories that appear in your feed and over time teach it more about what interests you by clicking like at appropriate moments. As well as the browser-agnostic app, you can download the Chrome plugin or free apps for iOS, Android or Windows Phone 7 and 8.
My name is Ted Ed, and I am a symbol for both the TED Ed website and the billions of videos available to you for free on the website known as YouTube.
And this site lets you turn any video from YouTube into a complete lesson, adding context, objectives, questions, extended notes and resources links or discussion topics to really engage students in the lesson being delivered by the video clip. TED has been going since 1984, originally a conference designed to bring together the greatest thinkers from the worlds of technology, entertainment and design. The name has become synonymous with mind-expanding lectures and world-changing ideas, and this education initiative sits perfectly inside that ideal. Anyone can visit the site and enjoy the flipped lessons already posted by the community, either by subject or just delve into the best clips as voted by site users, which are updated daily. You're never too old to learn something new, and this is a totally inspiring place to start.
What if people think I'm awful, that I'm an idiot? That fear of being seen as an awful idiot is a threat reaction from a primitive part of your brain that's very hard to control. It's the fight or flight response.
BlackBerry has been struggling for some time now, last month laying off 4,500 staff and agreeing in principle to a takeover deal. But despite these trying times, there are still a lot of fans of the chat client, BlackBerry Messenger, or BBM, which at its height claimed over 75 million active users. That number has shrunk considerably as enthusiasm for the platform wanes, but the release of BBM for iOS and Android this week could see a revival, at least for the instant messenger app. There's a lot to love in this app, including live status updates, group messaging, and nice privacy options that mean you don't have to share your personal details with everyone you connect to. What's not to love is that you'll have to put your name down in a queue to have your account activated in the app, as more than 1 million people are reportedly waiting to start chatting cross-platform on BBM.
Thank you, Kate. Kate Russell's Webscape. And if you missed any of those links, you'll find them all at our website, bbc.co.uk/click. And if you'd like to contribute to a future Webscape or comment on anything that you've seen in this week's programme, then get in touch. Email click@bbc.co.uk. You'll also find us on Twitter, Google+, and Facebook too. But that's it, I'm afraid, for this Singapore special. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.